Thank you very much for keeping it Smart Means Business. Here we are dedicated to make sure that we light up your mornings. I don't know what you want for your morning, but I believe what we have for you every morning is what you need. So,
let's say it. And
wouldn't you want that for your morning? And we are definitely here to drive the businesses for all of you. To understand what is happening from the business world, because that is what makes it more of the most important aspect in life is for you to understand the business angle of what is actually happening across the world. With the year of economic recovery and financial revival, it is very important for you.
Not forgetting that you can get us anywhere, anytime, anyways, by simply being a part of your TV channel, and it is always easy and impactful if you get it through or via the MTN, using MTN app or using MTN data. So you could tap into Smart 24 TV, you could watch us while showering, you could do anything on that phone of yours across the country. We're going to be driving into business with you. And speaking of that, Sonko, what is next?
Well, with that, let's have a look at our business quote for the day, the 2nd of March 2022. And this particular one is coming in from Jack Dorsey, who is a co-founder of Twitter. Make every detail perfect and limit the number of details to perfect.
Make every detail perfect and limit the number of details to perfect.
So everything that you do is supposed to be perfect, but limit the number of the details you're supposed to perfect. So
okay, I think it's reflecting from what I'm learning there. It's reflecting that I have to make sure I do everything in my means, at least to get something good out of what I'm doing, not just doing for the sake of doing. As I am doing that, let it not be on pressure. This is where now I have to limit the people who know about my business, because at the end of the day, it's going to bring a lot of competition. As I am selling, let me make sure I put it to my customer. Therefore, I'm going to involve in let's say maybe I can do my marketing right or my promotions right from the business angle to you, the consumer. And then after that, there is a competitor somewhere, somehow, who is looking at you meanwhile. And how are you going to provide that space for that particular person to maybe get another highlight from you? Are you going to just say everything you do? For example, you have got a hotel or a restaurant, Joram. You have ingredients or recipes that you're using for that particular, maybe how you prepare your chicken around there. And a time comes when your competitor wants, people coming to your stores every day. So the competitor will be wanting, what is that ingredient? What is that recipe that you put? Joram, tell me, are you going to give out your recipe?
Well, it will depend on the situation. There is a receipt. You see, even in restaurants, people give you a receipt. They will tell you, I'm giving you a receipt, but then he will hide the major part of it.
Yes, exactly.
Because if there is that fear always, even when you're in competition, he will feel like, if I give you that spark of mine,
then you're giving the business and that is now what the quote reflects, that do not try to perfect, do not try to
go detailed in your perfection.
Yes, so because you're going to sell your business, so always try to have limitations in whatever you do. Give what you can, and what makes your business stand on or stronger, always reserve that, because at the end of the day, it's the secret to your success.
Oh. And it being that, now let's look at more of the business reports, and we continue with the electronic passport, as a new system was launched at the Uganda mission in London. As the High Commission of the Republic of Uganda in London officially launched the operationalization of a new electronic passport system at the mission premises. Let's have more of this report.
High Commission is the first among Uganda's missions abroad to operationalize the new system. The rollout is expected to be followed by other missions in different locations, namely Washington, D.C. in USA, Ottawa in Canada, Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates, Pretoria in South Africa, Copenhagen in Denmark, and Beijing in China. The event was co-presided over by Uganda's High Commissioner to the UK, also accredited to Ireland, His Excellency Julius Peter Moto, and Major General Apollo Kasita Goa, Director Citizenship and Immigration Control, accompanied by Brigadier General Johnson Namanya Abaho, Commissioner for Citizenship and Passport Control, and Mr. Laurent von Buren, Finance Director, Uganda Security Printing Company. In his remarks, Ambassador Julius Peter Moto welcomed the delegation officials led by Major General Apollo Kasita Goa and conveyed a message of gratitude to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, particularly Directorate Citizenship and Immigration Control, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and for the enormous efforts in ensuring operationalization of the new e-passport system commenced with the Uganda Mission London as the pilot. The High Commissioner acknowledged that the new system would greatly reduce the time it takes to get a new passport processed and issued. He further noted that the system comes into operation as the country approaches the deadline for phasing out of the machine-readable passports due on 4th April 2022. Major General Apollo Kasita Goa commended Ambassador Moto and the staff of the High Commission for their commitment to ensure that Ugandans living in the United Kingdom and Ireland and surrounding areas of accreditation are assisted and receive quality service. The director called on the Ugandan community in the UK and Ireland to take advantage of the new system to apply for passports, considering that after the deadline of 4th April 2022, the machine-readable passports will not be in use. He further emphasized that machine-readable passports will only be used by citizens returning back to Uganda but not to any other country. Major General Kasita Goa also highlighted that the new passport system is designed to reduce the turnaround time in processing the passports to effectively serve Ugandans in the diaspora.
The old passports have been phased out and they can only be used by those that are actually heading back to the country, and once they are here, they'll also go through a process of making sure they acquire the new electronic passports. That will foster more of the growth when it comes to the aviation sector, and also when it comes to the Ministry of Internal and the Ministry of External, of the Foreign Affairs rather.
And also the e-passport or the electronic passport will tremendously, or it will surely enhance the using of or bring out integrity of the Ugandan passport worldwide, because it's going to create now a very great difference, because even the Ministry of Affairs was highlighting, of Internal Affairs was highlighting, if you've got an e-passport now, it is always, you know, for the betterment of you. You're not going to be out, because there is now category. People have got category at some point. You know, when you see you have got, for example, I'm going to give an example on myself. My colleague Eddie was making fun of me. We were making fun of ourselves because we use electronics, especially laptops, maybe a tablet. So if you find out at some point you're going to find yourself, you're the only one with something old, outdated. So for to be safe without being laughed at, or without being not in the vibe, or not in the generation really, you have to always have your hands on and pull up your socks to have a fair competition. You can imagine if you're not, if you're a person or a businessman and you do not want such information to be around you, that means you're going to have a limitation at some point. Why? You're going to be accessing a service and they tell you, okay, bring out your passport, and you're still living in a way back. It's going to limit a lot of your expectations in regards on how you compete and also handle business around there. So if you could continue.
And when you look at this particular one, the new passport system is designed to reduce the turnaround in processing the passports. And this will also effectively serve Ugandans, more so those in the diaspora that cannot access the offices here in Uganda. So it will also be very effective for them to access the electronic passports so that they can easily travel to, back and forth from the country and back to where they're working
the difference that it has away from the old one, which was black, this one has got the East African. You may ask yourself the e-passport. I don't have the electronic passport, because some people think something electronic has to, you know, always be maybe intangible at some point, not touched. But the e-passport has got a header of the East African, whereas the one which was phased out had a header of the Republic of Uganda. And it was particularly
with the national emblem, rather with the coat of arms.
Yes, and you will realize that the e-passport design has got a special chip which holds information that is printed on the data page, and this one is restored or is directly stored on a machine, which is why it is called an electronic. It can be accessed anywhere, everywhere, and anywhere around. For example, if Sonko, you happen to go to the US or which country do you want? I don't want to post you to US. Which country can I give you?
Let me look at these countries. I have 3. One, I would want to go to Zanzibar. Very important.
Okay, so
the United Kingdom, and then the other may be
you always
Mexico.
wanted Dubai. Okay, we're not talking about Dubai anymore. Okay, then
Dubai.
Mexico.
Why we want to go to Dubai? Maybe for a month to see what is there.
Okay, you just want to go and have a holiday there. Let's take Mexico, right? One of your favorite countries, maybe. So Sonko, you're in Mexico. You happen to lose maybe lose track of your hand copy of the passport. You can always go to the embassy nearby that represents your country if Uganda has got an embassy there. So you run there. It is always easier to check in the system. Your details will always be there if you report at that particular desk. And thereafter, you can definitely continue with your journeys. And not with the time when with that phased out passport. If you could lose it, it was hard.
It's just like losing a national ID.
Yeah, it was hard to track your journeys or to track your records, because the system identification, some of the system identifications were not there. But now there you're good to go. But also I saw in the story, Gloria, they are mentioning that there is a system after 2 years, in 2022, which is the year we're in. That means it's going to,
because as they're in a period now of phasing out.
So it is going to only limit people who want to
back
use
to the country.
Okay, and if you have the Republic of Uganda passport, the phased out one,
But
and you want to
once you're back to the
continue,
country,
you want
you
to
have to
continue
go
to
back.
what it won't work.
So you have to get back to the ministry and make sure that you get the electronic passports worked on for you.
And the ministry has made it easier. You do not need to come to Kampala, and actually wherever you are in Canada and the passports here have changed, you can apply via the Ministry of Internal Affairs, how is it called? A website.
The website.
They've got a website, so you can apply there and get your passport worked in real time. So you don't need to travel to Kampala.
And summing this up on this particular issue is that this phasing out was supposed to be done by the 31st of December 2021, but due to extensions that were made because of COVID and preparations, it was pushed on to the month of March. And now let's move on to the other business report regarding more of business coming up from the local scene. And what do we have, Rita, in our other stories?
Okay, we will now head into financial lives for refugees in Uganda, how they are faring. And the high cost of transactions has been hindering the use of mobile banking report around there. Let us get into detail on this one, where the financial institutions have been called upon to offer financial services to refugees to boost their financial livelihoods, and also rebuilding livelihoods in displacement, where refugees have a wide range of income sources, self-employment, and one of the remaining challenge is how their financial status remains unchanged at a point. But during the launch of the end report in March 2022, the experts noted a reduction in the offering hand towards this particular refugees. We take a look at this report. We do return to discuss and have more clue on that.
Little has been known about the financial strategies employed by refugees over the time to build their livelihoods and manage their finances. Financial institutions have therefore been called upon to offer financial services to refugees to boost their financial livelihoods. During the launching of the Endline Report March 2022 by BFA Global, a consulting firm that applies financial and digital innovations, experts noted a reduction of offering financial hand to refugees.
Profitable market segment, but it also proves that there's still a lot that can be done, and I don't want to preempt the study findings. I'll leave Michelle to come and do that very well. But it's just to invite the people around the room to think a little bit harder, and for example, especially for the financial service providers, to think of what more can they do, and especially in this digital era. Even the money that they received last month has decreased even further. So we are kind of seeing a reduction in the amount of money that is being disbursed to refugees over time. We've certainly seen it in the last 2 years, despite the needs kind of continuing to either remain the same or increasing.
According to the report, there has been an increase in the number of refugees owning or having access to mobile phones compared to the baseline by 7%. Uniquely, the research was conducted directly before and after legislative changes in Uganda allowed them to own SIM cards registered in their own names for the first time. As a result, mobile money usage had a tremendous increase from 29% to 61% between the baseline and the endline period.
The policy regime has really helped because the refugees now are owning the SIM cards in their own name, which has really helped. But I think the drawback, one of the biggest drawback that we saw is the cost of transacting, especially using mobile money. So if that was addressed, I'm sure they could there could be actually a better uptake of digital financial services. But also to add that thinking about this ecosystem so that people don't necessarily have to cash out the money, they can actually use the digital money digitally even when they go to merchants or to shops. I think that would really help a lot. But again, that is very much pegged on the cost of doing that. To the question, I really like that question about, we have highlighted a lot about the refugee and the silent people here are actually the host communities. And like Michelle said, the focus of this project was not just to the refugees. It's only that we are reporting a lot on the refugee, but also the host communities, because they face almost the same challenges as the refugees do, and they live in the same community.
Seen increment of mobile money, but also there comes in a challenge of digital literacy. And I think this is where we are talking a lot about, and you can see from the companies that are talking, the implementing partners saying we have to do sensitization, we have to do training, and that will help. So hopefully as access to smartphones and access to phones increases, more and more people and opportunities come up so that they're able to actually use digital products. So one day we are hoping that they're able to say, like, I can either touch my button, I can be able to do this. From the research itself, when we asked them what they've done with mobile money or their phone, a lot of it was just communications as of now and just sending money back home, not so much on the digital products. So I still think like that's a great opportunity for having other new institutions coming in and using it. And especially like financial institutions, starting to tell them this mobile banking is an opportunity there as well.
The report further indicates that there has been a significant change in cash at home from 29% at the baseline to 59% during the endline. Refugees said that they keep money for emergencies, particularly for health emergencies. In terms of savings instruments, there was a significant increase in the Kampala refugees from 6% in the baseline to 38% during the endline. There was also an increase of about 20% in the Bidibidi settlement and 20% in Inakivali.
We have some coverage of urban refugees, specifically those in Kampala. Some of their needs, their typical risk management, coping mechanisms, and the financial instruments that they use. Obviously, they have their palette of financial instruments is richer because they are in the cities, they are a bit more accessible by the financial institutions. So accessibility, like Michelle mentioned, in terms of branchless banking may not be so big an issue, but then there are still other issues that apply, like policy in terms of identification. Some of those barriers that existed for refugees in West Nile also applied to those in Kampala as well.
In terms of lending or credit, the most commonly known used loan facility is a loan from informal group. According to the report, this is prevalent in the West Nile, Palarinya and Bidi with an increase of about 17% in both settlements, and this was attributed to the program implementing partners.
Of these members went through a rigorous program before loans were advanced, right? Similarly, Rufi also offered a digital lending product, right? They ensured that the members went through a digital literacy program. The ledger links that they used, they had to let their partner Grameen Foundation train all the saving group members on how to use a smartphone, how to use the technology, how to access information in offline mode, and how to sync in when the connection is maintained. So all that was covered and all that was embedded in the approach the FSPs took to serving refugees.
In a report, high cost of transaction has hindered use of mobile banking, sometimes costing a user up to 15,000 to access their money. There is limited comprehension by respondents in understanding the terms and conditions offered by formal financial service provider for financial products. Account opening fees and maintenance fees were also highlighted as a huge concern. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Very well, and there goes for the lives of refugees in the country that has decreased in regards to support, the support that comes again from a number of individuals or those well-wishers who would want to actually support them has seen a reduction. And what do you have to say, or what do you have to comment on regarding your reaction or your observation that has been ongoing that reports have highlighted in regards to resettling in of refugees around the country? Why could it have triggered this reduction, or where does the matter come from?
Biggest claim here is that
away from what even the report is saying,
the funds that have been coming in after, let's say in March, have reduced. For instance, if I told the refugees have been receiving let's say 50,000 US dollars coming into the country, it has now decreased. And that is a very worrying state to the fact that we are receiving more of the refugees, we have more of the refugees, we are giving room for also other refugees from other countries. But then if at all the help is being decreased, it actually becomes more difficult for even the non-government organizations to help out.
Okay, I thought non-government organizations, it's as you gotten from their perspective. Not even, they don't have even to look at the government budgets, budget first of all.
No, but you have to look at this government to see how is the government also supporting the initiative. Because normally you come in with more of that initiative, you're saying you're a non-government organization, you're doing the charity, but how is the central government also supporting the cause?
Yes, I mean, to me, if you're supporting someone, Joram, you do not need to look at what the father gives them or what the mother gives them. If your attention is really towards doing charity to a refugees or refugee settlements or whoever person you're reaching out to, it could be the vulnerable groups, it could be the elderly, it could be the disadvantaged. You don't have to look at what other people are doing. It is always under your capacity to say what, okay, I can afford this, let me just give in 100 million US dollars to this particular group. But if you always consider and say, okay, government was highlighting, it was giving out refugees this and this, food has delayed to come, so it's from that reason I'm going to drive, you know, my abilities and my interest to helping other people. That is going to arise questions in your mind, and you will also start reacting negatively. But also government at some point limits how non-government organizations or how other individuals would react. Do you remember on food distribution when we were in COVID-19? Some individuals were coming out to organize groups and find organized groups, but give in support to them. Here, we're not talking about refugees, but an extent or an extended hand towards support, and government was highlighting how it's not safe for people to just go in these groups distributing help, distributing support. So you will realize that at the point, people maybe couldn't have triggered their mind and say, okay, maybe government can take care of maybe its people, because I am coming out to display my responsibility here, display my wish, but I'm being limited. So at some point we should revise some of the mechanisms or measures we put in public, because it will bounce back to how, you know, we react towards some of the, you know, wishes that come along.
And little has been known about the financial strategies employed by refugees over the time to build their livelihoods and manage their finances. But
have you been to a refugee settlement?
I've had people working there, close family and friends who have been worked.
Because you would be shocked what you
UN
would find
before.
in some of the refugee settlements. For example, in the Bidibidi, the one with the biggest refugee settlement in the country, you will see there are a number of business orientations that are happening there, and you could not find anywhere away from the settlements, and they would shock you. But the way how people tend to, you know, to perceive certain information on refugees, that's the word refugees. It's a sensitive one to some people. It already creates some, I can say, a negative impact onto someone when you just say, I don't know, how do you call refugees in your language? We call them as Suhuki. Okay, whatever it is. But the moment you mention that to some people, it tends to be a negative reaction that, hey, they are coming to take everything we have worked for, everything. Batutwalako abakazi, batutwalako abasajja, batutwalako our business. So it's never always like that. These are people who have been working in their countries, or have been having employment, or have something, have got talent. So when they come in society, let's not always look at them as dependents or parasites, because at the end of the day, they have a skill that you do not have. So always a welcoming hand is better, and it will always improve us at some point.
Well, with that, we do take a break. But after that, we return with the SMB Insight, looking at the internet in Uganda.